Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, knoxnews.com is where you can read all of his great Vols coverage. Tennessee coming off an off weekend. They host the 3-5 Kentucky Tackle Cats. Adam, fair to expect that all the first half scoring issues have been solved. This team is going to roll through the playoff or roll through the regular season with ease and en route to 11-1 and an obvious playoff berth. Yes?
It's a multifaceted question. By the way, I like the tackle cats. I heard a new one this week, the mild cats. I don't think I've heard that one before.
Ron Slade just calls them the kitty cats.
Yeah. Meow.
All right. I mean, first things first, yeah, they need to score in the first half. It's unbelievable that this is sort of a thing now, especially because the first 3 seasons under Josh Heupel, they would get up on everybody. I mean, they set records for first quarter scoring. And you can see, like, everything with Tennessee's offense lately is like we can kind of see it, but it's not there yet, but they're almost there. And the first half scoring is one of those. I mean, the last 2 games they've had a kind of unforced fumble on the first drive of where they were driving pretty well of the last couple games. So it's there. We can see it almost there. It just hasn't happened yet. I mean, it's the same thing with Nico. We can see things opening up. I mean, for all the issues that they had with the passing game for about a 2 or 3 game stretch there, play calling was good. The protection was good this last game. The receivers were open downfield. He just didn't hit them in the first half. So I tend to think I think they're confident to the point where they can see their way out of this. Now it's just getting out of it. I will say that the schedule sets up reasonably well to have an upward trajectory in November. I mean, we know Georgia's coming on the 16th, but Kentucky's defense especially has been gashed by the run game the past few weeks. I mean, there's a running back for Auburn, Jarquez Hunter, that had 278 rushing yards. The Jaden Ball, the running back for Florida, had 5 rushing touchdowns. And then DJ Lagway, the quarterback in that same game, hit 5 passes or 40 yards or more. What it at least it sets up as, and every game's different, but what it sets up as a Kentucky team that's going to give up a lot of rushing yards and then sort of collapse in the box and open up play action for open deep passes. And I mean, if you're Tennessee, that's exactly what you want. Let Dylan Sampson, run for a $150 and a couple touchdowns, and then Kentucky throw everything they can into stopping that run, probably unsuccessfully. And then Nico can have his pick of deep passes. It's all set up to do that and to look really good on offense, and then have a slightly different plan to build on that against Mississippi State. And then you can go into Athens, Georgia, saying this is a really good running offense, and the issues have been somewhat solved with the quarterback, and everything's going well going to Georgia. If you don't do that in these next 2 games, then you've got a big problem, because Georgia's not going to – if you can't do it against these next 2 teams, you're not going to do it in Athens, Georgia.
Adam, you've written about this on Knox News, about whether or not Nico has turned the corner, talking to Heupel and other Tennessee players. But I saw some interesting comments that you made on Tony Basilio's show over in Knoxville regarding the fact that Nico played obviously much better after he took that big hit and had to briefly leave the game. And he said it kind of woke him up a little bit. That you had an interesting chat with his former high school coach about that and some of the things they would do to get him early and maybe feel some of that contact early in games.
Yeah, his high school coach said that this was a routine thing in high school in California where Nico played, is that they found that he would play better after he got hit. Now, that's pretty common with a lot of quarterbacks. He just sort of shake things loose, and it just sort of gets you into the game more. But Nico loved to run over guys. I mean, he's thin, but he's also 6'6", and you think about in high school, you could do that. And they wouldn't protect him necessarily. Nico's whole family, which he's got like 8 siblings, his dad looks like he's a retired NFL defensive tackle. They would all just celebrate when Nico would just truck somebody. He would run over them, and everybody would flex and yell, and his dad would start chest bumping everybody, and they really got a kick out of that. And Nico would play better after that. So they started to call runs for Nico on the opening drive of games when he was in high school, and it would help him just start every game well. I'm not saying that they need to run a quarterback draw or a zone read or something and let Nico try to run over a Kentucky linebacker. I would not advise him to do that. But just having him take a little contact and just a simple run play early in games and let him take a little contact, I do think that would probably help him. It helps most quarterbacks, and we saw in that game, after he was injured, you don't want that, but after he was injured, he just seemed a little looser. And I think that's especially something on those deep passes. Sometimes when you haven't taken contact and you're sitting back there and you're not getting as much of a rush, you tend to overthrow balls like that, especially when you have a strong arm like him. It just seems a little too easy.
Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel here with us on 104.5 The Zone. At Adam Sparks is where you can follow him. Squirrel White, what's the cost-benefit analysis that they're doing right now? Because what is this, 3 straight games that he's had to leave with an injury?
Yeah, I mean, every time it happens, you're like, well, that's Squirrel. I mean, as a freshman, I remember Squirrel came in sort of as their third receiver. I remember in his recruiting class, and he instantly jumped to number 1 after about a week of practice because he would take a hit, he would hold on to the ball, he would play injured, he would try to run over guys despite his small stature. So this has always been what Squirrel White is. He is just a tough slot receiver. And you wonder if that's gone a little too far lately. Every game now, he'll make a catch, a diving catch. He'll take a shot, and he'll sort of grab that shoulder. They'll have to lead him off the field. This last game he didn't return. He's done this 3 games in a row, and you just wonder at what point do you sit him or do you limit him and try somebody else? I mean, the fans want Mike Matthews. They want the 5-star receiver out there. Now, Matthews has played outside. He hasn't played slot that much. He could play slot, but there's just, we asked Kelsey Pope, the wide receivers coach, about that, and it just seems there's a little bit of hesitancy there, that his blocking is not up to par. There's a few things missing. They want him to be a little more consistent. I mean, Kelsey Pope coached Jalen Hyatt to a Blitnikoff Award, so he knows far better than I do. There's hints of this. You guys will remember this when Randy Moss was on the Titans, and you would hear the coaching staff always say, well, he does this great, but he doesn't do everything. He doesn't know every route or every play, or he doesn't block downfield well. And so until he can do all those things, maybe we don't need to have him out there. And we all know how that ended. Sometimes I just think sometimes coaches are like, maybe have the guy go out there and just do the one thing he does great for 3 plays and then pull him off the field. That seems like an option.
Who among us could forget Titans legend Randy Moss? So if it's not Mike Matthews, would it then be Nimrod? Or if it's not Squirrel White, I guess is the question, which wide receiver would you expect to fill in if not Mike Matthews?
Well, I'll say I do think Squirrel's going to play,
okay.
And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Nimrod is the obvious choice there. I would like to see Chris Brazzell in the slot a little bit. We saw him for that touchdown. I don't think they'll go that route. I think we'll probably see some Chaz Nimrod after Squirrel. We may see a play here and there with Matthews. I'll believe it when I see it. I actually think this will sort of solve itself because I think Tennessee's going to use a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, where you don't have to have a slot on the field, and they'll try to see if they can run the ball in this Kentucky defense. And so it'll probably take care of itself. But every time you ask about Squirrel, the coaches are like, Squirrel will be out there. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. And, we'll see. He's had a bye week to get better. But that AC joint, that shoulder he's dealing with, I've never had that injury, but everybody that I know that has say that it's never fully healed in the middle of a season. So Squirrel's just going to have to deal with it.
Just the irony of me getting ready to go to a quarterback's press conference who is currently dealing with that in his throwing shoulder. It's just a tough scene. all around. Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Don't laugh at me, Adam. It's bad times around here. Don't laugh at me.
Hey, can you think about?
I've heard from afar.
Think about the fact that like Adam and Tennessee media over in Knoxville are talking about maybe the quarterback needs to take more hits early, where Adam over here took a year for the Titans to teach Will Levis to slide.
There was an ovation in the press box, Adam. I swear to God, when he slid for the first time, there was an ovation in the press box.
I'm just wondering, with the quarterback issues there, and then Hendon Hooker maybe on the trade block, are the callers playing the hits this week of Go Get Hendon, or is that over there?
Oh, no, it's not over. Hendon Hooker played in the most recent Detroit Lions game against the Tennessee Titans because it got so bad. So, yeah, it's just enough to rile the natives.
We haven't heard that much of it, though, to be honest, though. Have we had a single caller this week call in and saying, they got it wrong, Hendon Hooker should be the Titans quarterback?
They're too busy buying up paper bags to put over their heads for the next home game at this point. It's tough times around here, like I said.
Cinco for Nico is what they are saying, Adam, 2 years from now.
Anyway, there is a good football game coming up on Saturday. Adam Sparks will be there to cover it. You can hear kickoff of the Vol Network coverage. 6:45 p.m. Central Time is the kickoff on 104.5 The Zone between the Vols and Kentucky. Lucas has been, his BVS, his battered Vols syndrome, has been agitated a little bit here in the last couple of weeks, mostly because he sees my football program, Indiana, having great success, and he's jealous, but also because he thinks there's a scenario in which the Vols could go 10-2 and end up outside the playoff. Do you want to bury Sparks with what you've been peppering us with lately?
Yeah, quickly, Adam. So here's the scenario. Notre Dame wins out. Oregon goes into the conference championship game undefeated. And Ohio State wins out, and they beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Penn State and Indiana each finish 11-1 with their one loss to Big Ten champion Ohio State. Miami goes into the ACC championship game undefeated, but loses to Clemson, who ends up as a one-loss conference champ. Then the Big 12 championship game is played between undefeated BYU and undefeated Iowa State. So that puts you at 10 playoff resumes before even getting to the SEC. Now, I know the SEC is going to get more than 2 teams in, but all of that a very long-winded way of asking you, could 10-2 maybe not be good enough to get Tennessee in with the way their strength of schedule has dipped and how NC State and Oklahoma have played, the way we thought previously that 10-2 for Tennessee would be a shoo-in to the playoff?
Can you hear the fear in his voice?
Yes, 10-2. There's a few scenarios where 10-2 Tennessee does not get in. They need the SEC to get at least 3, but probably 4 in. I still like Tennessee's chances to get in if they are 10-2, and if they're competitive against Georgia. I'll make you feel a little better. Ohio State's going to lose to Penn State, and then they're going to lose to Indiana in 3 weeks.
Oh, I love that. I do love that.
Do you love it? Do you? Because I will be insufferable, just so you know.
Well, I don't care about you. I care about this playoff scenario. I would love to see Ohio State go 9-3.
Clemson's going to lose another game down the stretch, maybe even this weekend. Pitt is going to lose a couple of games. SMU's going to lose a game. ACC is going to be down to 1, maybe 2, but probably 1 team. Big 12 will probably get a couple in. Notre Dame will get in. Big Ten's going to get 3 in, but not 4. And if Tennessee is 10-2 and competitive against Georgia, I think they get in because I think a lot of these other teams beat each other. I wouldn't be shocked if A&M lost to South Carolina this weekend. Not picking that one, but I could see it. I think Ole Miss is going to be out. They may lose at Arkansas. If not, they'll lose against Georgia. And so I think a lot of this is going to take care of itself. Here's the thing. I understand why Tennessee fans have a lot of anxiety about this because there's so many scenarios out there that could keep Tennessee out of it. I will say if you look around at all these other fan bases, and there's about 15 that we could name that are all in this same log jam, those teams look at Tennessee and think, I wish I was in their spot.
Yeah.
Because people are assuming Tennessee will be 10-2 and have a shot at 11-1. A lot of these other teams have big games that they're going to have to win down the stretch to get to where we think Tennessee's going to be.
Germod McCoy he was named a semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, which is, of course, the award for the nation's best defensive back in college football. How realistic are his chances to win it? Because obviously he's been a revelation among all transfer portal players, not just for Tennessee.
I mean, Travis Hunter's up for it. Caleb Downs is up for it. He has a chance to maybe be a finalist. But, I mean, he was one of the guys that was a surprise because he wasn't on the list to begin with, on the watch list. It's sort of a compliment to him that he ended up being one of the top 15 guys. He's had the fastest upward trajectory, I think, of probably anybody on that list for the reasons I just said. I think the best news for Tennessee is that if you look at the 15 guys on that Jim Thorpe list, 13 of them will be draft eligible in the spring, and almost all of them will go into the draft. The only two that are not draft eligible are Caleb Downs at Ohio State and Germod McCoy, which means Tennessee potentially could be bringing back the best corner in college football next year. That sort of spells out how much of a transfer portal gem that Germod McCoy is. I mean, he is the prototypical guy that sort of makes his name at one place and then bumps up in the portal to another place. I'm sure Oregon State doesn't think of it that way, but Oregon State is, well, I guess they're technically not even in a power conference now, but that's a half step below the SEC. And, he increased his value dramatically from a 3-star wide receiver who only had one power conference offer out of high school. And in 1 year, he turned himself into a very good cornerback. And, now he's going to make a lot of money in this sport because of it. I would imagine he's making pretty good money already.
He is Adam Sparks. At Adam Sparks is where you follow along, not just on Saturdays, but, of course, in the weeks leading up to the Vols games. They are hosting the 3-5 Kentucky Wildcats at Neyland Stadium over the weekend, and Adam will be there to document it all. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
You too. That's Adam Sparks with us on 104.5 The Zone. KnoxNews.com is where you read him. He's just having so much more fun.
What do you make of that? The idea of getting Nico some hits early just to shake off the dust, get him in the rhythm, especially coming off a bye week.
So, yeah, I mean, well, there's a difference between getting him some hits and getting, just getting him in contact, right? You can get him involved in the run game, obviously. Yeah. And that's kind of where he's been. I don't know. You think I'm unfair to describe him as reticent in the run game?
I don't know how much they're calling it for him right now.
Which is fair.
That was a big part of what got him going in the second half against Alabama.
When there are opportunities to scramble, though, too, you feel like he's willing to just tuck it and go?
Yeah, that was one thing Hendon Hooker was so good at with Tennessee, was just understanding when to tuck and run and just that timing, that awareness of where defenders were to get out of bounds, to not take unnecessary hits. So, yeah, you don't need to go the John Henderson approach, right, and have somebody slapping the hell out of Nico in the locker room before the game.
I don't know if it works.
And you don't need to tell him, hey, see that giant 300-pound defensive lineman, go run him over. But there is something to that, though. I wonder how much they're adjusting things based on what got him going in the Alabama game. And, I mean, that's the job of a coach, right? Okay, what do I need to do to draw the best out of this player at the spot where he's weakest right now? And for Nico, that's been in the first half because the plays have been there. Heupel has set first quarter scoring records. It's all been right there to continue that trend. They just haven't been executing them. And it's not just Nico. They've had issues with dropped passes as well. And Squirrel White will monitor him on Saturday because he was a part of that negative trend against Alabama while not completely healthy. But, yeah, I wonder how much that's part of the discussion over there this week. Get him some hits early. You know what the most impressive conversation or part of that conversation with Sparks was? The fact that you buried him very, very quickly in rapid fire with all your various playoff scenarios and that he just immediately. He just came out. Yeah, he was, remember that game Fruit Ninja?
Point after point after point.
Remember Fruit Ninja?
Oh, yeah.
You could play on iPhone or iPod.
Sure. Fruit Ninja and Angry Birds.
I was throwing watermelons and pineapples at him, and he was there with a sword just slicing them apart, just took apart everything, and I loved it.
That's what makes him really good. Do I have things to give away?
For what?
That would sit 11 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. It's SEC Observations time. That's next.